My name is Curtis Torrez, aka Coke. I was a member of the Javelins, 8th Division. Dirty Harry was the prez. Johnny Javelin was one of the leaders also. I was also a member of the Royal Javelins in the Lower East Side, where Black Danny was the prez, and Nathaniel Ingram was one of our leaders. He was the prez also. I wanted to say a story about the Bronx back then when we was all united. We had the Reaper Bronx, the Reapers, Eddie Cuevas. He did a couple of colors for us, and we used to work together. The Bronx was all tore up. We used to clean up lots. We used to clean up. The Bronx was so destroyed. We used to team up to clean up the areas. We try to make a difference to protect our neighborhood and make it look nicer, you know. Um, and then we was united. The Reapers was very close. Reapers. They was called Grim Reapers, but they had to change the name to the Reaper Bronx. Many gangs had to change their names. We started off as Javelins, then we put the Royal Javelins. We had a genie. Uh, our colors was orange and black. And we had a genie in the middle. That was a symbol. That was the center cut and our patches. We'll have Royal or Young in the top, Rocker in the bottom, and they'll say where we're from. Or we'll have Javelins. Sometimes we had different colors. Most of them was handmade in the beginning. I want to talk about the gangs that was out there at the time. When I was out there, I started off in 1973. I think I was 13 when I started off. I was a young javelin. In 1976, I became a Royal Javelin. I'm trying to find something out. Actually, everybody said that the turbans had uh, they had Vietnam vets. It was true, but mostly all the gang had Vietnam vets at that time. Most of the groups in the '60s when they was coming out of Vietnam, those guys that didn't have nothing to do, they would had experience, and they would either they would go the right way and get jobs and do things, or they would be in the streets. Most of those guys that was in the streets joined street gangs. So they had they had ideas, and they had actually in the beginning they became before I was around. There was Black Panthers, Young Lords. We wanted to be like them. And, we also had the Dragons. That was the Puerto Rican gang. My uncle told me the story about the Dragons, how they used to fight Irish. They used to fight Irish gangs, Jewish gangs, all kind of. There was all kind of white gangs. There was a lot of gangs back then. You know how the story they talk about. There was also a gang called the Jets in the Bronx, which people don't know. There was also a gang called the Black Warriors. That was that was years ago. The stuff that I seen. I'm gonna name all the gangs that was existed, all the big gangs. Um, I'm gonna go one by one and name them. The Black Spades. It was one of the big black gangs. The Ghetto Brothers was also a huge gang. I mean, because they had members everywhere. The Black Spades was mostly black, and Ghetto Brothers was mostly Puerto Ricans. You could say they was evenly matched. I say the Black Spades had more numbers, but I can't really, I can't really prove that because there were so many ghetto brothers also. Anyway, I'm gonna go with the Black Spades, the Harlem Turks, the Renegades, the Harlem Renegades, the Black Pearls, the Phantom Lords, the Black Assassins, a gang called Power, Casanova, the Peacemakers, the Royal Javelins, Ghetto Brothers, the Young Sinners, the Satin Sinners, the Roman Kings. That was the offshoot of the Ghetto Brothers. The Roman Kings was like, you was a Roman king, then you would be a Ghetto Brothers. I think that's the way it was. Um, Also, the Javelins, they had a gang called the Flames or something. Some people was Flames, and then you'll be a Javelin afterwards. That was in a book that I read. Anyway, the Royal Javelins, Ghetto Brothers, Satin Sinners, Young Sinners, Roman Kings, Assassinators, Savage Skulls, Reaper Bronx, Seven Immortals, Dirty Ones, Unknown Riders, Turbans, Bachelors, Ford and Baldies, Golden Guineas, Zulus, Tomahawks, Sex Boys, Hellburners, Devils, Rebels, Saigons, Screaming Phantoms, Majestics, Majestic Warlocks, Homicides, Unknown Riders, TNT Bachelors, The Justice, Justice of Manhattan, Justice of Brooklyn, The Filthy Mad Dogs, The Spanish Kings, The Sportsmen, The Cato Nunchuckers, Dynamite Brothers, Puerto Rican Brothers, Young Javelins, Centurion Dragons. There was also Asian gangs, Golden Dragons, Flying Dragons, Ghost Shadows, Tongs, Triads, Wichang, and if I forgot, I can't name them all. There was too many of them. Let's start off with, let's talk about the Savage Ghosts. The Savage Ghosts and the Savage Nomads there was almost there was almost similar. It was like a brother gang. There was Savage Ghosts and the Savage Nomads. They always stuck together. The Savage Ghosts still existed. They had hangouts by Eden Avenue, by the 4 train in the Bronx. The Young Skulls division near the Javelins by the West Bronx, 180th Street. The Savage Ghost was very close to the Royal Javelins. I'm talking about in the neighborhood. The Reapers, 4th Division by Morton Place in the Bronx. Black Assassins and Undertakers, the gangs was from the Tremont area by 180th, not far from Southern Boulevard. These gangs would team up with the Black Spades. They was not as big as the Black Spades. In 180th Street in Katona Park, the Undertaker's name was Judd. The Golden Guineas of East Chester housing by Gun Hill Road. The Imperial Bachelors, 26th Division, President Roly Mosley in the Bronx in the 60s. Eden Old Projects, the sex pervert at DeWitt Clinton High School in 1976 to 1980. That's when DSR was vice president of the Savage Ghosts. The Savage Ghosts, 7 Immortals, the Savage Nomads in Bryan Avenue. I didn't know any Mongols. The Black Spades occupied territory, 3rd Division, Bronxdale Project, Soundview had like 20 floors and over. I'm talking about floors in the projects. Bruckner Express, along with Watson, Rosedale, Soundview. That was over 20 buildings of Black Spades, Peacemakers, and other members of other gangs. It was all over that neighborhood, but that was mostly occupied by Black Spades. The Black Spades 22nd Division project was just built South Cross Bronx Expressway on 174th and Morrison Avenue. The Turbans' early 70s, our only allies that I remember were the Federation of Turbans from Katona Park area. They helped Evil Annabelle and the Secret Bachelors, and they was an offshoot of the Spanish Mafia, who wiped out the South Bronx presence of the Skulls, and there was allies of the Nomads. I don't know about that, but that's what it says here. Savage Skulls, the infamous 25th Division based by Southern Boulevard. The Raw Javelins had a huge division by Hoe Avenue. The Bachelors, Black Tony was not the president of all the Bachelors off Jackson Avenue. The Cypress Bachelors, Blondie was Prez. Savage Skulls, 24th Division, located on Morrison Avenue. Okay, that's information I have over here. Again, I wanted to talk about how everybody talked about how these gangs had ex military veterans. Like I said, most of the gangs in the Bronx had. They said the Turbans had a lot of them. Yes, they did. So did a lot of other groups. We was taught how to make Molotov cocktails, sit guns, use weapons. I seen all kind of weapons come out of the Bronx. Uh, a lot of outlaws. The Bronx had a different style. They looked like outlaws. They kind of resemble the Hell's Angels. Um, you see the top. I can't see the top 10 gangs because everybody was one time made noise. Say one of the top 10 gangs I could say maybe was the Black Spades. Uh, in New York City, the homicides was huge because in Brooklyn it was big. They had the Black Spades. The Tomahawks was big. The Javelins was kind of big in the Bronx, Manhattan, but say there was kind of only because I was in it. I favor them, but the Ghetto Brothers was also a group that was huge. Um, the Savage Girls and the Nomads made a lot of noise too. Uh, say the Devil's Rebels in the Bronx. In Brooklyn, it was big. I mostly met all these people in Rikers Island after after my time. They told me all their stories. I met all these people was famous. Um, just want to say they have a museum in the Lower East Side, Exit Street. One of the guys from the Satin Sinners, his name is Cochise, and I want to say shout outs to Mario and the inner city uh, outlaws of New York and some other people that talked about history. Some people that don't want to name their names, even though they did some stuff. Uh, I want to say this was something I wanted to talk about there's still some more information coming in as I speak. This was in the 70s, so uh, I hope I had all the information right. There was, don't want to skip anybody, but there was, back then, there was a lot of groups that was, it was tough. Even the white gangs was, at one time, we had a problem with. We had a problem with. I forgot to mention one a group. Uh, it was a white gang. Trying to remember the name of them. Oof. Yeah, there was a couple of white gangs. There was not the Golden Guineas. What's this other group? Trying to. I would say it in my next interview. I would mention them. I would go talk about white gangs next time. It'll be about white gangs and whatever I didn't talk about today, I'll talk about in the next interview. This is Curtis Torrez from the next Javelin, talking about history from the 70s in the South Bronx and all over the Bronx. Um, I did one about the Lower East Side. I hope this one's better. Thank you very much. Curtis Torres, aka Coke 3. See you.